The million-dollar question is, does Charleston need more hotels or better, more affordable housing? Our next guest has the answer. Let's welcome Josh Dix, Vice President and Advocacy for the Charleston Trident Association of Realtors. All right, what is the answer?
We need all of the above solutions.
Do we?
Yes.
Hotels too?
Well, we need hotels, but we need housing.
Yeah.
We're having a real hard time just fitting everybody in. This is a desirable market from across the country. People want to be here for different reasons, whether that's work, retirement, you name it.
Sure.
People are coming, and we have to find housing for all of them. And so we've been working the last several years on trying to find different solutions that may work. Part of what has been proposed in the city of Charleston is for hotels to include housing as part of their developments. And
but they're very expensive,
are.
though. We're talking about missing middle housing. So,
correct.
So define that term for us.
So housing is sort of broken up into two sections in our area: your traditional single-family homes or the larger scale multifamily housing. What's been eliminated through the years are duplexes, triplexes, smaller cottage court style homes, homes that are accessible to entry-level folks, and also retirees who want to downsize. They may not want
families, young professionals.
We are increasingly eliminating the first-time home buyer opportunity in this region, and we feel that missing middle housing is a wiser land use. We can put people closer to transit, and that was the focus area of our study, is looking at the upcoming Low Country Rapid Transit and how do we build around that to make it successful, to ensure that that line has a ridership and people can use it with walking distance of their home.
Now, when we're talking about housing, though, and kind of middle income housing, this is ownership we're talking about, right? Not renting.
It can be both.
It can be both.
Yes.
Okay, because when we're talking home ownership, it's sliding.
Mm-hmm.
It's sliding amongst the younger set. No one can afford to own a home. Even a starter home is so incredibly expensive. And if you want one, you have to live out in the boonies, which is really unfair because so many people have jobs, say downtown, and then they got to fight traffic. And this is the problem with the hospitality industry, is that no one could work and live in the same place.
Right.
So they're left with the dilemma. Who wants to deal with that?
Yeah, it's a burden on our infrastructure.
Yeah.
It just creates more drive time, which is the number one issue when we talk to folks.
We don't have the infrastructure for that either.
Right,
so don't get me started.
But getting folks living closer to the core of our region is important. And so that's what we're trying to do through some zoning changes, is to allow that opportunity, create that first-time home buyer opportunity. The largest segment of buyers for the first time in our history are people born since 1980. And then you think about what they're saddled with, the college loan debt and everything else, putting them on the outskirts is just not a responsible way for a community to grow. So we want to focus on infill development where we can and put people into closer proximity of where they're working, where is their recreation, and that is in the core of our region.
Let me ask you this. So what is the reception from developers? Because you're saying you've come up with a plan. There are plans out there, designs that would be very palatable to a lot of people who want to get in on this housing thing. But what do developers say? Because what I've heard is that a lot of developers, they just want to rent properties. They just want to keep churning and churning that rental income without the opportunity for anybody to actually own anything.
Well, the developers we work with, they just would like some direction. Going through the approval process is a lengthy program when you're trying to get development approved in this area. Having some.
Is that the fault of the city?
I think it's a combination of
the county.
I think a lot of folks are at fault here. There's no one person to point the finger at.
All right.
But we need to look at different ways of growing. Single family just isn't for everyone, especially when you're talking about that first-time home buyer opportunity.
Right,
If you can't create some equity and wealth, it's hard to move up into that forever home.
And a lot of leadership here, though, they are developers themselves. They come from a development background, so they kind of have a biased, I think, outlook or intention, maybe. So how do we find someone who's more partial, neutral to the actual development process? For the benefit of people, not for the individuals.
Well, I think you're seeing a
things.
shift. You have Mayor Cogswell in the city of Charleston. He comes from a development background. You've got some council members in North Charleston and throughout the region who are, related to development, whether it's in real estate. They're trying to find market solutions. It can't just be, you can't just have the private sector or the public sector producing affordable units. It needs to be a true public-private partnership to eliminate, the high costs of land. When your construction costs are what they are, it just makes it unfeasible in a lot of ways, and the units just don't get built. So how do we come together with the private sector and the public sector to create a system that works? And that's what we're trying to do. Well,
it's good to know that someone's on the job. Thank you so much, Josh, for sharing with us. So we do appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see something. When it is such a desirable place to live, well, it's not just for the retirees who can afford these big homes. We need something for everybody, right?
Yeah, and that's what makes Charleston a great place. It's been historically for hundreds of years a community for everyone, and we want to open those doors again.
It's on its way. All right. Thank you so much, Josh.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate it. We'll be back after this.